Assalamu alaikum. I'm back. Today I've decided to talk about why I left Christianity, more specifically Roman Catholicism. I was born here in the United States and raised by very strict Roman Catholic parents. I was sent to catechism at least once a week, and church Sundays every Sunday, and every holiday. I believed it. When I was young, my favorite parts of the Bible were the parables of Jesus. I still love them. I still love reading about the things that Jesus did and the things that Jesus said. But as I grew older, I realized that there was a big distinction between the things that Jesus did and said and what the Catholic Church does and says. And when I went to college, at first I decided I wanted to become a history teacher. And so in college, my study of history, growing up here in the United States, we have to start with the history of Western civilization. And the history of Western civilization basically starts with the history of the growth of the Roman Catholic Church. We're taught basically, prehistory is, before Jesus, before the birth of Jesus, is kind of, it's glanced over. Most Western civilization history courses start with Rome and the explosion of the Roman Empire, which eventually turns to Romans feeding Christians to the lions. And then around the year 315, the Roman Emperor Constantine decided Romans weren't going to kill Christians anymore. This, I think, was a pivotal moment in history for Christians because Rome at that time was like all powerful. They controlled most of Europe, most of the area around the Mediterranean. So Rome was pretty powerful, and not killing Christians was a huge step to promoting Christianity. Constantine, the Roman Emperor Constantine, also decided that he would make Christianity the religion of Rome so long as the Roman pagans could still celebrate their holidays, including Saturnalius, which is now celebrated as Christmas. Studying history, studying what actually happened in the 7 councils. The 7 councils were the councils of bishops in the time of Constantine, and I think 300-400 years afterwards, which established the church. Not only the Roman Catholic Church, but also the Eastern Orthodox churches. The first couple of councils, all of the bishops, priests, popes, whatever, that were at the top of their churches came, and they met in different places. The first one was in Nicaea, therefore the First Council of Nicaea. The First Council of Nicaea created the original Nicene Creed, which is most likely still used by Eastern Orthodox Christians. The Nicene Creed was changed later on in I think it was the 6th Council, I'm not positive, to what Christians use today, like the Roman Catholic Christians use today, is the Nicene Creed. In between there, one of the councils developed this rule that said that no man was allowed to talk, write, or preach, or even believe anything other than what they approved. So these guys built the churches. These guys established Roman Catholicism. Constantine, Roman Emperor Constantine, also commissioned the first Bible, in which the members of the council went through all of the texts that had been written up to that point in time, all of the books, all of the lost books, everything that had been written about the life and teachings of Jesus. And they went through and they picked out which books to include and which books to get rid of. And they pretty much destroyed everything that they didn't approve. Luckily, we've found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we've actually gotten most of the texts that we know of. We can read them now, and if you there's links online where you can read English translations of the Dead Sea Scrolls and read the books. So my study of history, especially the development of the Roman Catholic Church, really turned me against religion. Not against God, not against Jesus, just against organized religion, because I realized that the church had been built by men. Men had made the rules, men had decided what to believe and what we were going to believe, and their rules that nobody else was allowed to change anything stayed in place for thousands of years. And of course, then finding out about the Crusades, summarizing the Crusades really quickly, the Eastern Orthodox Church in Byzantium called upon the Romans to come help them because the Turks, also known as the Muslims of that day, were converting so many people. And sometimes when they would convert people, the cities would become Muslim, and the king of Byzantium didn't like this. They were taking over his territories, and sometimes they would erupt into violent conflicts. So he calls, well, not literally like on the phone, because it didn't exist then, but he writes to the popes in Rome and says, hey, come help me out, we're having trouble with these Muslims. Pope, I can't remember his name. I can't remember which pope it was. I know this. It's like right there. I just can't remember his name right now. Sent the best fighters of Europe to help. Except when they got there, they decided they'd rather have the gold. So they conquered from Byzantium to Jerusalem, killing pretty much everybody they felt like, including the Eastern Orthodox Christians, the Muslims, the Jews, the pagans, whoever they didn't want. They killed. They slaughtered them and took over whatever available resources they could find. And, of course, the Crusades lasted for thousands of years because, first the Muslims came, took over, and said, yeah, we were living peacefully here until you guys showed up and killed everybody. And that went back and forth a couple of times until, the Roman Catholic Church couldn't come up with enough crusaders, after hundreds of years of these fights. And, a lot of the crusaders ended up staying in Jerusalem or Antioch and other places around the Mediterranean because that's where their gold was. Crusades were all about money. Nothing to do with God and religion. And studying the history of these things it really hurt my heart to know that, I was worshiping in this faith that man built. And it was based on a lot of greed, and there were a lot of compromises that came about, because after Rome was sacked by the Franks and the Goths, the Catholics, the Roman Catholics of that day, they didn't want to all be slaughtered. So they agreed with the Franks and said, okay, you accept Christianity, we'll take some of your holidays and we'll kind of make them Christian. And again, the Goths, They come in, they say, okay, well, just don't kill us and we'll take some of your holidays and make them Christian. Do you really know why people bring Christmas trees into their house? Because when the Christians went into the north, into Scandinavian countries where they were worshipping these wood gods, they were bringing fir trees, evergreens, into their house because they believed bringing evergreens into their house would let them survive the winter. It has nothing to do with Jesus. It has nothing to do with, Jesus wasn't even born in the wintertime, which is neither here nor there, and you can look that up. Do some research. Find out. Research made me turn from being a Catholic into a Gnostic. I still believed in God. I still believed in Jesus. I still believed that there was truth in some parts of the Bible. But I questioned which parts to really believe. And I would encourage anybody out there who is interested in researching history, especially researching, the Bible and Christianity and the growth and spread of Christianity. Research. Read your history. The advent of the internet has been a glorious thing for us because we can look at pretty much everything. And you can find out what's in libraries all over the world, except the Vatican. You can't read the Vatican library texts. Believe me, I've tried. I've researched. The Vatican library is probably one of the best libraries in the world. But you can't read anything unless you agree to a lot of their terms. So, check it out if you're interested in learning why I'm not a Catholic anymore. Obviously, I'm a Muslim now. But I learned about religion when I was about 19, 19, my first couple of years in college, and I became a Gnostic, and I was a Gnostic from that time until I became a Muslim. So I was a Gnostic for about 16 years, and I didn't jump from one religion to another. I researched, I learned, I tried to find the truth, and that is the most important thing for anybody who's questioning their religion or their faith. Research. Read. God gave us a brain, use it. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum.